All right. So last week we did if and else statements and the for loops, right? Um, so today we're gonna start something interesting. So far we have, you know, variable that are very simple. You can save like one value, right? So for example, when you have a number type, you can save a number like 2 or 15 or 29.6, right? Um, or you can save a string. Right? But what if you want to save more than that? For example, let's say if you have a grocery list and you want to save a grocery list, right? It's not a single value, it's more like a list, right? So if you want to have a list, JavaScript has a data type called array. Okay, an array is like a list. Um, One of the first characteristic is just like imagine you have a bag of a grocery, right? Um, and when you put something in, what happens? You can only put something at the bottom of the list, bottom of the bag, right? Um, and then as you put stuff in, um, sorry, top of the bag, right? But like first item is going to be in the bottom, and the next item is going to be at the top. But you cannot insert something that easily in between something that is already there, right? So list is almost like the same way. Um, so and also every item has an index. Index means like a rank. Think of like a uh, you know, if you're standing in a line, you are given a number, right? You are first, you are second, and things like that. So for the priority. Similarly, in the list, you an array, you also have a priority. Um, but instead of like like a first, it always starts from a zero for whatever reason, right? So the first item, the number is zero. It's called index, right? The second person is going to have an index one. The third item is going to have two, and so on and so forth. Okay. Um, so in nutshell, if you always want to imagine a list, think of a queue or a grocery bag and things like that, right? Any question on that one? And we can start coding. Okay, so let me open a code pen. So do open a code pen. I'm going to share my screen. So make sure that you have only JavaScript and hide everything else. And you can just drag this thing, right? And again, if you haven't done it in a while, click on a console, drag it up. Okay. So you should only see the gray area. You should not see anything white here, right? So that's your starting point. And also in the setting, make sure the behavior is not auto updating, right? This one, so that you can see this run button. Okay. All right. I'll give you a few minutes to get to this stage. All right. Now let's create our array. Okay. And I mean, since it's a small group, I'm gonna code and I'll wait for you guys to do. It's best if you code with me, right? Um, so if you want to create an array, it's similar to how you create any variable, right? So you will say let, I'm gonna call it a bag, okay? And equal to, okay? But instead of just single value, we'll just use a square bracket. Okay, opening and closing square bracket. And in between, we'll have some values, right? It could be any value. It could be a number or a string or whatnot. So let's have some strings. So if it's a grocery bag, let's say I'll have, I don't know, bread. I can have milk, can have some candy, right? All right. So remember I told you about the indexes. So every item is given an index and it always starts with a zero. So the first item always has an index of zero. And again, this is not part of the code. I'm just, showing you how it works. And this one's going to have index one and this one's going to have index two. Okay. So bread is at index zero, milk is at index one, and candy is at index two. Okay. It's like given a number, right? A priority. It's always sequential. It always starts from zero. So you have three items, right? One, two, three. But index is the last item of index is always going to be one less than the length, right? Because we are starting from zero, it's always going to be one less than the length, right? Any questions here? All right. I'm just going to give it a comment so that, it doesn't interfere. Okay. Again, this is not part of the code. I'm just to show you what it is. Okay. All right. So if I want to add something to the bag, let's say I just got some water and I want to add to this bag. So what you do is, remember, think of bag as this is the bottom part and this is the top part, right? If you visualize this as a line, let's say, right, this is the first guy, this is the last guy. So it's easier to enter the line at the end, right? It's easier to enter the bag at the top, right? So the same way this also works. And there are two things you can use. A push would add item to the bag and pop would remove item from the bag. So let's say if I want to add a new item to bag, I would say bag dot push and I'm gonna provide the value. So let's say I'm gonna say water, right? So I pushed, I added water to this bag. Obviously, you don't want to put water, just a bottle of water, let's say, okay? And then if I console log the bag now, I would see four items, right? You can see bread, milk, candy, and water. Okay. Anyway, programming, if you understand the fundamentals of it, programming is damn easy. Okay. People who say programming is hard, they never try to understand what's going on and then just, you know, get afraid by the syntax. One of the analogy I use is a kitchen analogy, right? A kitchen analogy is, um, let's say, the stuff that we use, right? So the concept of queue, it's the same concept here. It's nothing new, right? It just the way we code it is a little different, right? The syntax, what they call it, is a little different. We are adding stuff to the bag and we're removing stuff to the bag. It's nothing, it's no rocket science, right? um but people, when they look at it, they just, they think, oh, it's coding, it must be really hard, right? But in reality, coding is pretty simple, okay, once you understand the fundamentals, and it's very rewarding. You will not get this kind of a easy money. Um, I should not say easy money. It is hard money, but what I'm saying is you can take this JavaScript course and you can apply for a job and you can easily get a, let's say, $100,000 job, which you cannot do in any other field, right? Um, so yeah, and I can guarantee you, if you learn this um, more systematically and practice, you can easily get a job with, that makes you $100,000. So we just have to put your, work in, and then, you can make a lot of money. Any questions?
No.
All right. So if I'm going to remove something, so I've added the water in the bag, right? What if I want to remove the water? Remember, it's easier to remove something from the bag, right? So what I'm going to do is I'm going to say bag dot pop. Do you know why I did not put anything in here? Like, what am I popping? Just saying bag dot pop. And then I'm going to do another console log. So there are two console log. There's a first one, which is before I pop the last item. And then this one is after. Okay, so if I run it, you would see, first has 4 items, and then this has 3 items, right? So pop, all it does is removes the last item. That's it. So I'm going to ask you a question. What if I want to remove everything? How do I do that? I want to make this bag empty. How do I do that? Yeah, so the question is, what if I want to make this bag completely empty? I want to remove bread, I want to remove milk, I want to remove candy from this bag. How do I do that? Can you try removing everything? Highlight and delete? No, 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 not like removing the lines from here.
from the actual variable. So if I do console log bag, it should have nothing inside. Make sense?
Okay, can you hear me?
Yeah.
Okay, now I got that working. Don't you change? Oh, I'm looking at. Let me look at mine. The 0, the 1, and the 2.
Mhm.
Do you turn it all to 0
Turn it all to 0.
on line number 3?
Oh, line number 3, just a comment. It doesn't
So
doesn't do anything.
So you want to remove bread, milk, and candy.
Yes.
Bag equal. Turn the equal into a subtraction.
No. So okay. So let me. So if you look at this example, what happens? What happens with this one?
Where are you? Okay.
Line 7.
Line
Pop.
7. Bag pop.
Yes. So what pop does, it just say whatever the last item is, it just pops it out.
Oh, so you would put bread, milk, and candy inside the parentheses after pop.
No. Okay. So this line, let's go line by line, right? So
Okay.
this line, I created a bag with 3 items in it. Got it?
Mm-hmm.
So I'm just gonna comment this out. And if I do console log bag, what do I get? I can see exactly the same. If I run this, I would see what I have in the bag, right? Which is bread, milk, and candy. Yes?
Okay.
Okay. Now I want to remove candy. Remember I told you, right? If you have a line, you have a bunch of people standing, right? Easiest to remove somebody is from the last guy. If he leaves, it's easiest, right? If the first guy leaves, what happens? Everyone has to move, right? Up,
Right.
because the index changes, right? So if I want to remove something, what I'm going to do is I'm going to say bag.pop. Okay. When I do that, what it does, it removes the last item. I'm just going to add a comment here. It removes the last item from the bag.
So that automatically takes the candy out?
Yes. Okay. So now let's see it. So I've created a bag. I remove the last item. And then I'm now looking in the bag, see what's inside, right? So if I run this, I would see only bread and milk, right?
Okay, can I try that real quick?
Yeah, try that. Yeah.
Take this and put it on the second line.
What if you just put 2? Oh, go ahead.
Okay, yeah, the candy came out of the bag.
Yep. All right, you were saying something, Kelly?
What if you put like 2 bag pop under it, or maybe you do something to bag pop?
Yep. That's it. If you do 2 bag pops, so every time you do a pop, you are actually removing 1 item, right? Pop means take whatever is on from the top, right? So if you do 3 times, what happens? The bag is empty.
Okay, that's what you want us to do, right?
Yeah. So pop is, think of like, I'm just grabbing the top item and then removing it. That's it, right? So if you want to remove everything, you have to repeat that action. So first I'm removing the candy. So this removes the candy, this removes the milk, and this removes the bread, right?
Yep, everything's gone.
So remember 2 things. Pop removes the top item. in this case, from the end of the array, right? Which is the last item. Push adds the item to the end, right? So now if I do bag.push, and I'm just going to move this console log after, right? So I remove all 3 items, and then I'm going to add one more, which is, so it's going to have only water. Everything else going to be gone.
Oh, push is that.
Right? So always think of a physical world. When you're programming, think of a physical world, right? If you look at the how the arrays are, arrays are like a if you have a like a in a school you have lockers, right? Think of these are sequential lockers, and then your things inside, right? So when I say pop, it just does the last one, and last one you remove, and then add, kind of like that, right? So okay, so this one, pop, removes it from the last. Push adds. So that's why when you do push, you have to provide something inside, right? Because you are adding an item, so you have to add something to it. Pop, you don't need to put anything, right? You just say pop means remove the last one.
Okay.
All right. So this is very important to understand. And you can add more things, right? You can push, let's say bag dot push. I don't know. I'm trying to think of a grocery item. Watermelon or
It's classic.
cherry. Okay. Right. And then it's going to have water and cherry in it. Right. So to get used to the syntax, right? If you understand the syntax, understand the concept, programming is very clear. You always do things sequentially, right? So each line does something, and you have to remember, okay, what happens after each line, right? And you can see exactly what's happening after each line. If you console log between all these lines, you can see exactly what's happening. Right? All right, shall we move forward?
I think I'm caught up. I just added the cherry.
Okay, let's try. Is it working? All right, works for you. Okay, cool. All right, should we move on? All right. There's actually what if you want to add, there's actually a simple function which allows you to add and remove at the same time from anywhere to anyone, okay? Which is quite interesting. It's called splice. Okay, I'm gonna remove all of these for now. Okay, and use this. So what the splice does is very interesting. So the way it works is you would say, let's say I wanna, I'm just gonna put a comment here. Let's say I wanna let's say add, replace, let's say replace bread with cherry. Okay, I want to replace bread with cherry. So how do I do that? So there's a function called bag.splice. Okay, so splice is a function, and it takes multiple arguments. It takes 3 arguments. Okay, the first is the index, where you want to do things. Remember, a push and pop allows you to do things at the end of it, right? You can't do anything in the middle. Splice lets you add and remove stuff or replace it, anywhere in the array. Okay, so the way it works is you provide the index. So bread, let's say I'm replacing bread, right? So bread is at index. Anyone say which index is the bread at? Anyone know where exactly bread is? What's a bread's index is?
0.
2, you said?
0.
0, yes, right? So if I want to remove bread, I would just simply there 0. Let's just first remove it. That's not replace it. Let's just remove bread. Okay. So splice. So whatever you want to do, right? So I want to do at index 0. So first of all, at index 0, right? So first thing you provide is index. Second thing you provide is how many items you want to remove. So I can remove 1 item, I can remove 2 items, I can remove 3 items, or I can remove 0 item. Okay, 0 doesn't make sense because why would you, you know, not remove anything, right? But if you're adding something and not removing, it is possible that you do 0. So right now I'm just gonna say 1. Okay, so when I do, so basically at the index 0, which is at bread, remove 1 item. So it basically removes bread. All right. So if I do console log bag, I would see the bread removed. You see, bread is removed. Okay. Okay. If I want to remove two items, let's say I want to remove this one and this one, which means I want to remove two items, right? But it's starting at the index 0, which is what a bread is. So I'm going to say 2 like this. All right. And then if I run this, I only have candy, right? It's like it is almost like doing the pop, but I'm popping from the beginning, right? Not from the end. If I do 3, I'm removing everything, right? In this case, nothing would left. So any question on this one?
I got it.
All right. All right. Now I'm going to give you an exercise. Using splice, let's only remove milk. So at the end, you will have bread and candy. How would you do that? So here's I'm going to write. Okay, remove only milk from the array, from the bag, right? How would you do that?
What am I removing again?
Milk. Understand this formula, and then you can easily always collect where am I removing from and how many items I'm removing. That's all you want to answer, right?
I have the same thing. Object array, empty brackets.
No. That is if you use this splice, right? I'm saying use a splice, but I only want to remove milk. To change this line.
Okay.
Change this line.
All right. Only use. What the hell? Only use. Okay. Okay. You're right. So I'm gonna change this. And okay, so I need this and what? Okay, so, Wait a minute. Okay, I'm trying to remove the bread. That bag. Bread. Bag splice 03. Console bag pop. Oh, I'm trying to remove something.
Mm-hmm.
Bag pop. And remove the bread, that would be 0. Is this the point at the top of the page or something?
Can you say it again?
On console, I'm not okay. I don't. It's going downward, right? Because it keeps showing me the same thing. The
No, are you clicking the run button?
yeah.
No, but did you change anything here?
Yeah, I have okay, my first line, I have how many lines do you have? Yeah, line
No,
5.
this, yeah, you don't need to do this kind of stuff, but I'm just saying. Okay, this stuff is just comments, so you don't need this. You only have 3 lines, right?
Oh, I have 1 line, then but on line number 3, you're on. Okay. Now it's starting to look more like mine. And then
Okay.
console, but then I got the bag pop under it, in which I guess that don't need to be there because it's not yours. Now mine looks like yours. Okay.
So the question is, how do you remove only milk?
The new how I remove only milk is I go bag dot pop
No, pop would not do that, right? Pop
okay,
would not work.
bag dot splice.
Yeah, you have to do splice, okay? And then what?
And then parentheses 1.
Okay, 1, okay, good.
And then the whatever that mark is. The
Comma,
comma.
okay, and then
And then run, right?
no, you need to have two arguments here, right? You said this is going to be the 1, right? What about this?
Oh, that would be space. I just want to get rid of the milk.
No, you have to have a you said this is the second. Okay, so this is the first item is where exactly you're removing from, right? So I'm removing from index 1. So remember, index is 0, 1. So milk is index 1. Yeah.
Mhm.
Okay, so I'm removing at index 1. How many items I'm removing? Only 1 item. So this is how many items. That's it.
Oh, okay. So that's
Okay.
that big one.
Right. So if I run this, it would say bread and candy. Okay. If I only want to remove candy, I would say index 2 and 1 item. Right. When I run this, it would remove candy. Okay. If I only want to remove bread, I would say 0 and 1. Right. First index, 1 item. And it would remove only bread. Okay. If I want to remove bread and milk, then I would say from bread 2 items. Right. That would remove, bread and milk. Okay. If I want to remove everything, then I would say 0 and 3. Right. Starting from here, I'll remove all 3 items. So it removes everything. So splice lets you, one shot, it lets you remove, anything from anywhere. Got it? The first argument is from where, starting where? And the second argument is how many?
Okay. So I have removed the milk.
Mhm.
Yeah, I think I understand it now.
Yeah, yeah. You can also add stuff. So there are three arguments. The first argument is from where. Second argument is how many you're removing. But you can actually add what you can add. So let's say if I want to add, I don't know, a cherry, right? So, you know, I can say, okay, from index 0, which is here, right? Remove one item. So it's going to remove bread. And that at that index is going to add cherry. So this one is where, how many I'm removing, and what am I adding? Okay, so this is a strange function, but it does everything in one line. Okay, so I can get cherry, milk, candy, right? Let's say I want to remove milk and replace it with cherry. Then I'm going to say, okay, milk is index 1. So I'm going to remove one item, which is milk, and I'm going to add cherry, right?
Okay. When
So
I
then
just did
if
that, I got an error. I have it just the way you have it now. Bag splice, parentheses 1, comma. Oh, there's an extra comma in there that needs, I mean, there's another comma that needs to be there.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
And then this needs to be gone, whatever that is called. And then that's supposed to be a quotation.
Yeah.
Okay, and now let's see. Okay, yep, the cherry's added. It's number 1. Okay.
All right. So again, you can use this function to remove anything from anywhere, right? It's pretty simple. Everyone else got it? Any questions? You can play around with it. It's really pretty fun. All right. And if you have any questions, you know, I've in the canvas, I've made videos specific each of these for each of these items, so you can take a look at it and watch it. Okay. All right. So the next thing I'm going to do is replacing it. Simply replacing it. If I want to access it, let's say if I want to print the first item, right? So then all I have to do is parenthesis, and I'm going to pass as index, right? So when I do this, it gives me bread. So let me show you, right? It gives me bread. I don't know why it takes too long. Okay. If I pass 1, it's going to give me milk, right? And if I pass 2, it's going to give me candy. Okay. Any questions? So just passing the index in a square bracket gives you that individual value. So I can access each item, right? All right. Now, an interesting one. What if I want to print everything one by one? How do I do that? Right? I mean, I can obviously do this. I can say print 0, then print 1, then print 2, you know, right? But what if I have like a million items in here? I don't want to do one by one, right? What I want is a for loop. Remember we learned the for loop last week. So I can use a for loop to print. And there is a special for loop called for off loop. Okay. And the way it works is you would say for, and within the parenthesis, you can say let item off bag. And then within the curly brackets, you would say console log item. Okay. So let's understand this syntax. It's basically saying that, go through each item, and every time you get a new item, or when you access an item, so it starts from the bread and it prints it. Then it goes to the milk, then it prints it. It goes to the candy, and it prints it. That's what it actually means. Okay. So if I clear this and run this, it's gonna give me every single item one by one. You see this? Bread, milk, and candy. So this is a for loop that allows you to grab item by item.
Do we need to write of bag in the for function? Like for let item of bag?
Yeah, this one, yes, this one basically means, uh, for almost like each item of bag in a way, right? So it basically it's an iterator. So what an iterator does, it just loops through every single item. But in order to loop through, it needs, it's almost like when you say grab each item from the bag, right, and do something with it. And this is where you do something with it. In this case, we're just simply printing, right? Let item, it actually creates an item. And then, yeah, and then you need off bag, yeah. So so item basically is nothing but each item in this, okay? You can use like a regular for loop as well. Remember last time we did the for loop? So for that, we would do this. So let I equal to 0. Remember when we did the for loop, we started with I equal to 0. The three things. Where do you start? So I'm starting from the index 0, right? Which means the first index. How long am I going? So I'm going until less than, while the length of the this array is less than, right? So I would say well, I is less than the bag dot length. Okay, and then I would do I plus plus. So it's exactly the same for loop, and then but instead of item we get the index, and then I would do console log bag, and then square bracket I. Okay, because I need to pass the index. So this gives me 0, 1, 2, 3. I is nothing but 0, 1, 2, right? That's what it gives me. So here I'm getting each item. Here I'm getting each index. So I have to actually pass that index into the bag to grab the value of the bag. And so this is how it works. Okay, so there's two ways to, and Excel does the same thing. This is the traditional for loop that we learned last time. And this is a special for loop that is designed for an array. Let me know. Let me see if it. Let me know if it works. Yeah. Any question?
Still typing it.
All right. All right. And by the way, we got a lot to cover, right, for this class. So I'm moving a little bit faster, but I would suggest going and looking the canvas and watching the videos for your to refresh the the memory and practice. Do a lot of practice, right? It's like riding a bicycle. Coding requires a lot of practice because as we move forward, there's newer syntax gets added, right? And when I get a bigger problem, right? And if you don't remember all the syntax, it's going to be harder for you to actually solve problems, right? So I would suggest do a lot of practice. Um, if you have to watch older videos, do that. And that's how you do this, right? So
Okay, now what?
and as I say, always try to understand the concept. If you don't understand the concept, then it's really hard, right?
Was I supposed to push run yet?
Yeah, you can once you do that, run it. So these both loops do exactly the same thing, and they would print the same thing over again. So you can see bread, milk, and candy, and bread, milk, and candy. So right.
Yes.
All right. So we learned three things. We learned how to create an array using the syntax, right? The square bracket, you can just put a bunch of items. It could be a number or string, whatever you want to put in. If you want to add something to the end, you just use push. If you want to remove something, use pop, right? Or you can do the splice function that can use to add and remove at the same time, right? And then for loop allows you to, iterate through all these items in the array. Okay, cool. Okay, let's move forward a little bit. Any question before we move forward to the next topic, which is called objects? All right. This is actually a fun one, my favorite. Okay, so when you have a bag, right? Typically, there are two kinds of people. One who would just simply say, "Oh my," let's say if I have a grocery list, right? I'm gonna have, bread, milk, and water. Okay. But there are some people who would have a grocery list where they would say 2 breads, 1 milk, and 1 water, right? Or 1 bottle of water, or 1, you know, uh, uh, 1 container with 24 bottles, or whatever, right? But they'll have quantity associated with it, right? So, which makes sense in a lot of cases, right? So how do you create one? So instead of simple arrays, you can create an object. So I'm going to create a bag with a different configuration. Now this time, I'm going to use not only the item, but its quantity as well. So for that, I'm just going to use a curly brackets, okay? And then there'll be 2 things. So there'll be bread and its quantity. So I have a 2 loaf of bread, milk with 1 container, and let's say water, I don't know, 1 container of water, whatever unit that you prefer, right? So it's your understanding based on that, right? Okay, so now, and you could put a quote or not, doesn't matter if it's as a key. All right, so this is a call JavaScript object. Okay, so compared to the arrays, which had a square brackets and you only put the values like bread, milk, water. In this case, you are putting key, which is the bread, and then a value, right? So you're putting like that, and you're using curly brackets. Any question? So this is a little different format, but it gives you more information, right? And there is no index, by the way. Remember in the previous one, we had an index 0, 1, 2. There is no index here, okay? In a way, the bread, milk, and water is the index, if you think of it like that, right? So if somebody wants to know how many bread I'm going to buy, so all I have to do is say console log bag, and then I will pass bread, okay? And when I do that, let's run this, it would give me 2, okay? Sometimes it doesn't work right away. Yeah, it gives me 2, right? If I pass milk, it would give me 1. If I pass water, it would give me 1. So this is called JavaScript object. Okay, let's try this out and let me know if you have any questions. This is much easier than the arrays because arrays have indexes. This one doesn't, right? The numerical index, it always starts from 0 in arrays, but here it's just simply key and values.
You say the quotation mark, the quotation marks don't matter? Hello?
Yeah.
The quotations don't matter?
The quotation in the in here doesn't matter.
Oh, what about this, the third line?
This matters, yes.
Okay.
So in a way, think of this way. You could put quotation here or not, it doesn't matter. But I mean, I would not put quotation here. It's almost like a key. So when you use it as a key, it doesn't want it to have those quotation marks. So it would remove it automatically. But still it's a string, right? This is kind of an odd behavior. But when you want to access it, you need to put a quotation. Yeah.
Okay.
Now there's no start and there's no end, right? It's almost like you have laid out all these items on the table. There's no end, or there's no first item, or there's a last item, right? They all have equal priorities, right? So there's no push or pop in here. You can simply access it by saying, oh, I want bread, and I want, two items. Let's say if I want to add new item, then all I need to do is I can say bag, and let's say I want to add cherry. Okay, so I would say bag cherry equal to 5. Okay, so you provide what is the item that I'm adding and how many, right? And if I console log then bag, I would have, that cherry added with 5. So let's do this, right? So you would see 2 bread, 1 milk, 1 water, and 5 cherries. Okay. So to add, you simply pass it into the square bracket and say equal to, and you have to provide the value, right? So this is it. To remove it, it's also very simple. Remove, all you do is say delete bag, and then whatever you want to delete. Let's say I want to remove cherry. That's it. So you would say remove cherry, right? So then there won't be any cherry here. Okay, so this one is much simpler. You create a bag using like this with key values, and you can access it like this. Adding it's pretty easy, right? You just provide what you're adding and how many, right? And deleting it just the same way. Because there is no index, it's very easy to add and remove. Just get used to the syntax, right? Practice a lot, get used to the syntax, and this will become a piece of cake, right? There's an easier syntax for all of these, right? For example, you can use a dot operator, which is an easier, so you don't have to use a square bracket. You can use something like this. So instead of saying bag the square bracket cherry, you can simply do bag dot cherry. Okay, equal to 5. Or in this case, you can say bag dot bread. You can do it like this. Only time when you want to use double quotes is if you passing in here like this, or you can say bag dot cherry, right? So you can remove all those for the objects, and it's pretty simple. You can use either syntax, but this is much easier. And again, if you watch my videos, you will have all of that inside. All right. So any more question on this one? This is a little bit easier, as I said. Just you know, create a bag with values, and then you can access by say, hey, I want to get the value of how many bed do I have? Okay, that's many. I can add cherry by just saying bag.cherry equal to 5, and that adds the cherry. I can remove it. I can bag.cherry delete. Yeah. All right. I think for this week, I was going to cover like a mix of, so if you mix the objects and arrays, it's even more fun. Gets a little bit more complex, but you would see how easy it would get if you mix them up, right? You can create pretty much anything. And I'll give you an example before leaving. Can I erase this, or are you guys done?
I got it already.
All right. Okay, so let's say if let's create a, I don't know, Facebook profile, right? So, and it would all make sense. Let's say I have a profile. Okay, so profile, what kind of things would be in profile? Any ideas?
Name.
Name, yeah. So that's why you want to have an object, right? Because name would have a value, right? So name is a key, and then value could be like John or something, right? So you would have a name, and then value would be John. Okay, what else there will be in the profile? age, right? So let's say he's 40 years old.
Photo.
Yeah, you can have a photo, right? It will be some URL, right? I'm just going to put URL for now, right? Because it could be some URL that points to his photo. All right. What else can there be? So this here is designed for building, pretty much anything, right? Let's say he's got children, okay, or friends. How about friends? Okay. So now I cannot use friend as a single value, right? I have to use an array. So I'm gonna use an array as for friends. Okay. He's got two friends. Let's say he's got a friend called Kevin, and he's got a friend called Julie. Okay. But remember, in profiles, each friend can have their own profile as well, right? But we're not going to add that. So let's imagine this is it. Okay. All right. So if I want to know what is the name of the profile, I would say console.log profile.name. Remember, all you have to use is dot operator, and it would give you John, right? So let's look at it. I get John, right? So if I want to get age, I would say profile.age, and it would give me 40, right? If I say give me profile.friends, it would give me then Kevin and Julie. Oh, I misspelled it. Friends, right? Gave me Kevin and Julie. Okay. If I want to know who is the first friend, if I want to find out who is the first friend, how would I do that? In this case, it's Kevin, right? Remember, we just learned the arrays. Because remember, arrays have indexes. So if I want to know the first friend, all I have to do is this, right? This should give me the first friend, which is Kevin. I just want to provide the index. I want to know what the second friend is. I just have to say 1, right? That gives me a second friend, right? If I want to add a new friend in here, let's say Peter, then I would just have to say profile. So for that, I have to do here profile dot friends dot push Peter, right? Because profile dot friend is this array, and I'm pushing Peter inside. And if I now just look at profile, right, I would see the whole profile with name is John, age is 40, photo is the URL, friends, Kevin, Julie, and Peter, right? So push Peter. If I want to remove Peter, I just have to say profile.friends.pop, right? So now we are combining arrays and objects things together, right? If you do more of these examples, you would know. Let's try this out. Any question on this one? We'll do next time. We'll do more complex stuff on this one. We'll just do a refresher, and we can build pretty much anything. This is actually how Facebook, all of these stuff work. Facebook and they store our data in this format actually inside. So when you create your profile, this is what actually goes into their database. Okay. This exact format that goes into the database. It's not only Facebook, pretty much anything that you build on the web, it uses this format, right? Because everything has a key and value. Let's say if you bought a stock on, in one of the platforms, right? So you have a ticker symbol. How many stocks are you buying? 40 stocks, okay? So that's your stock ID is your key, and number of stock is your value. Okay. All right. So
something's wrong on mine.
all right, tell me what's wrong.
I've got 5 stem tax errors back to back.
All right, did you follow this?
Yeah, it looks identical, but let me look at it again.
Yeah, make sure that is. If you follow this, then you should not have this.
Okay, starts at line number 1. Number 2, name John. Number 3, age 40. Oh, I see something.
Comma, miss comma or something?
Yeah, punctuation.
Oh, okay.
That might have been the only one after age. Let's see. Object, name John, age 40, photo URL, friend, Kevin, Julie, Peter. Okay, it looks like I got it.
All right. There you go. So this is actually pretty important, right? This, anything that you build, you're going to have this format, key and values, right? Because in life, pretty much everything is like this, right? Whether you take a profile or anything, right? You'll have something and its value, something and its value, or list of something, right? So you can mix it. And this is a simple one. Next time I'm gonna build a very complex profile where your friend also have kids, or friend also have, age and photo, and and friend can have another friend, right? So it can go deeper and deeper, right? So so yeah, that's it can have, yeah, favorites or favorite movies or whatever, right? If you build all of these, it becomes a giant complex object. And in order to save this and access it, how you open your Facebook or Instagram, how instantly, it opens up and you see everything, but underneath it's doing a lot of different things, right? So we'll, as we build all of these stuff, we'll look at all of these. Okay. But this is a common way to describe things, whether it's a profile or your grocery list or anything, basically. Okay. If you have a bank account, it's also using this format. Like you'll have a profile, right? You'll have a different, transactions. Each transactions have its name and its, value, right? Cost, everything. You can break everything down into this format. All right. Any last question before we end? Cool. So yeah, this is it, folks. Yeah. And let me know if you have any questions. There's a little homework. If you don't finish it, that's fine, because I think we haven't covered everything. So I'll give you some leeway if you don't finish it by next week. I can extend it till, week after. So don't worry about it. But
What is the homework again?
if you look at the basically similar things, like removing friend or adding friend and things like that. If you look at it in the
Okay.
canvas, yeah, check out the canvas. Or you should get an email also. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Thank you.
All right. Okay. I'll see you guys next week then.
Oh, I had a question
Sure.
for today's homework. So do we just need to submit our code from Code Sandbox or
Yeah, you
CodePen, I
can.
mean?
Yeah, you can just save it on a code sandbox or a code pen, and then just submit the link.
Okay. And also like do we need to like put like an example like how we did in like or like in the homework display it said like, oh, you have 35 cents, then you give them $1, and then like do we need to do that in it
Uh,
or
that
do we just
example,
need the
yeah. Well, that was the last week's, right?
yeah.
I know that's a little harder. I know. So again, you have to write a code. So think of this way. Okay, I'll give you a hint. Usually what happens, let's say if I have $1, if I need to get $1.25 back, right? And I have a bunch of coins. If I want the minimum amount of coin, the first thing I would use is, okay, how many dollars can I use? So in $1.25, I have what? $1, right? So I'll use $1, right? And then, so divide by what, 10, right? For 25, then I look at, okay, what is the next quarter, right? So I divide by 25, and then so $1.25, it'll be 1/4, and whatever the remainder is, you keep then divide by the next next coin, so which will be nickel and then dime, not dime and a nickel, and then anything that's remain you just use as pennies, right? So in terms of answer, you can just print console log those. Say, hey, 2 quarters, print 2 quarters, print 2 dime, 2 nickel, like that.
Okay.
Okay. Yeah. And if you have some assumptions, if you make some assumption, just I want your creativity out, right? Whatever you think is right, just do that. And but put some explanation and I'll understand.
Okay.
All right.
Yes.
Cool.
Thank you.
All right. Yeah. I'll see you next week. Bye.
Bye.